Good afternoon, everyone. I see a couple people coming in, but we are thrilled to have you this afternoon in one of our breakout sessions. We are happy to have Armand with Colgate-Palmolive team and Tony from the PlanetTogether team to talk about the integration and what these two companies have done with Maestro and Kinaxis. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony and let them go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining us and look forward to a great session.
All right, thank you very much, Shane. Appreciate that. All right, well, as she mentioned, my name is Tony Nelson. I'm a senior sales engineer at PlanetTogether, and with me I'm joined by Herman Vizquea, who's the VP of Global Planning at Colgate. Maybe just to set the stage a little bit for what we're going to be talking about. Earlier today, if you were at the main stage, you got to watch Emma do a presentation around Colgate's transformation from the planning and scheduling, the supply chain side of things. What we're going to be really focusing on is the other half of that conversation. What does it look like from the planning and scheduling piece of this? So we really are just looking to kind of deep dive into lessons learned, a little bit of the struggle, a little bit of the history of how the transformative process came about. And then at the end, we'll kind of open it up for any Q&A in case you're curious about how things went with Herman. He's got some great insights and feedback for you all. So with that, we've got a number of things that we could talk about, but let's start with that 20-year journey. You had a really solid operating model for the last 20 years or so. And 5 years ago, there was obviously some big disruptions that came about. And if you could just kind of walk us through, paint a picture, if you will, of what that journey looked like that caused you to get to a spot where you said, something's got to change.
Okay, thank you, Tony. So we started our supply chain planning transformation journey about 5 years ago. We took the opportunity to understand what were the aspects that were limiting our responsiveness, our agility, that were hindering our decision making, and understand what were those factors. No? So internally, we saw that the ways that we do the planning were very sequential. We had a lot of handoffs on information and silos, organizational silos. We also saw that, and that's the way that we have been structured, is our operating model, as we call it. On the other hand, the lack of visibility of external information, call it our visibility of materials in our suppliers, visibility of our logistics partners or external manufacturing partners, or even the consumption of our products in our customers. Of course, all of this data is available, but it requires a lot of effort from our teams to receive the data, prepare dashboards and all that. So how do we digitize that part? No? And then, of course, in the external side, the growing sophistication of our customers. We know the surge of e-commerce, omni-channel, our customers offering these spaces for our consumers. We also, obviously, all the disruption coming out of the pandemic, all the volatility in supply chains, logistics disruptions as well. But on the other hand, on the bright side, let's say, is the acceleration of the technology, the acceleration of solutions that we have been waiting for many years now are becoming a reality. So with this landscape, again, we took a step back. And we took the approach to transform our planning operating model. And that planning operating model goes across, first of all, the processes. So what we wanted is to go back and understand what best in class looks like, to understand that you call the taxonomy of the supply chain planning in the industry, right, and to do an assessment of where we are, what is the opportunities that we had to fulfill that taxonomy. And with that, build the process for hopefully for the next 20 years. And with that, roles and responsibilities, inputs and outputs of the processes, everything that is going to enable that process. That informed as well our organization. So now we had also understand what efficiencies we can bring into the organization, what simplification we can have in the roles, and to establish a blueprint for our global rollout. As you heard in the morning from Emma, we are a global company, right. Global footprint. So we need to establish that blueprint for the organization. And finally, of course, the ecosystem of planning solutions. So really went and did a deep dive of what solves for what. So there's not a one-size-fits-all, which is a learning again from the years. Now we have very strong solutions for very specific parts of that and build that ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think one thing that's really important as far as a takeaway goes from that, you can't just throw a bunch of technology at this problem, right? This is not just you plug and play technologies and everything works super smooth. So do you mind kind of talking through maybe some of the challenges that you initially ran into where you were even looking for best of breed in the respective areas? Because you landed on Kinaxis for the demand planning, you landed on best of breed for advanced planning and scheduling with the PlanetTogether solution. But tell me some of the challenges you were looking to solve for during that time.
So specifically on the scheduling space, we have in some of our factories multi-level operations that requires a very timely synchronization. And of course, we face the constraints on our legacy systems for many years that could not create a digital model of that synchronization. So we could only do at a higher level, at the packaging level, or we can do at some level, but we could not really synchronize the multi-level operations. And that, of course, drove that people had to create the schedules in spreadsheets, had to communicate manually to the shop floor, and of course that's only in paper. So the execution is another story. So it started to see in plants and the shop floor full of inventory because there's no synchronization, or packaging lines shutting down because we don't have the predecessor on time, availability of formula or availability of packaging, it was not on time. So those are the kind of synchronization challenges that we need to address now through a digital twin, a digital model of the operations that we have, and to synchronize those operations.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about some of the volatility that you experienced. You were talking about there's disruption in the supply chain. How did you account for some of that volatility in this transformative process?
So definitely one of the capabilities that we are bringing both in Kinaxis Maestro, as we know, and as well as PlanetTogether, is this what-if scenario, this scenario planning that, of course, our teams does. And today they have to download data in a spreadsheet. They need to change to simulate increases of demand. They need to simulate a shutdown of lines or lack of materials, like the examples that were shared in the morning. So now with this capability inside the tool, again, a digital twin, they can understand what is going to be the impact, what is going to be the best solution, and have a consensus, have that collaboration internally with the teams, and come to the best solution.
Yeah. Now, you've obviously had an opportunity to go and evaluate a lot of different software that could have potentially helped with the overhauling of this. Obviously, we've all gone through an experience where you put a bunch of cloud solutions together, nothing talks together, you've got kind of these siloed data sets that are out there. Was that a factor in what you were really looking to do as far as the architecture and design of this process, was find things that talked well together? Tell me a little bit about.
Yes, so in that ecosystem design, first is we need to have on the center our planners, our users. So we are creating again an experience for our planners, and we talk about part of that operating model is very important. It's about the change management. We are asking people that has used the same technology for many years. Some of our team members have been all their career using the same solutions, and the business is being delivered. I mean, with a 10, 12 hours effort, but it's being delivered. Right. So now what's in it for them? How they are going to get adoption and learn a new system? Why do I need to learn a new technology? Why do I need to train myself? So part of having that change management approach and the planners on the center is that we need to create that ecosystem, but we need to create a seamless experience and leverage on Now the game changer, of course, is cloud-based technologies. So how do we create a seamless experience for the users, that we have the information flowing from our system of record into our planning systems and sending back for execution. So, and that, of course, drive already some wins in terms of we need to be very thorough with the preparation of master data to drive discipline into the master data updates and maintain. There are new master data that today is in people's spreadsheets or in people's minds, that now we have the capability to leverage that and to synchronize those processes. So configuration of storage tanks with packaging lines, all of that, we have experts on the shop floor. Now we need to create tables to digitize that information. So that's another win, no? How to bring to the digital realm those valuable capabilities.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned some of the wins that you've had on that side. Have you experienced anything as far as maybe customers that have come to you, they ask if you can deliver on certain timeframes? I believe you and I were talking kind of off to the side about how that used to take you quite a bit of time to be able to get back with answers. Has that process changed at all for you?
Yes, I mean, we saw some examples, again, the effort that it takes to process, again, some of the scenarios about opportunities with our customers, just preparation to massive seasonal events that those require start to pre-build inventory before, or to even to manage overflow of the product in warehouses. All of that we do, our teams does, we need to prepare now in a digital way using the tools. Definitely the amount of time and effort that is required without the tools is significant versus what the potential that we're seeing now.
Yeah. Now, have you actually done any kind of benchmarking yet with any of that?
Yes, I mean, some examples that were shared in the morning, it took us days. The challenge with that is we start the exercise, took us 3-4 days to process this kind of scenarios. And when we finish, the information already changed. There's latency on the data, so you have to refresh it. Right. Or the conflict that you create a scenario on the demand planning side, and without having this a scenario planning capability is, if you go and update the plan, you create a disruption already because it's live. It's going to impact your logistics. It's going to impact your retail scaling.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier that one of the things that you struggled with was the lack of synchronization between kind of the planning and the scheduling piece of that. How has that changed for you as you've gone through this?
One really big advantage is that we started to create in the longer and the mid-longer term much more accurate plans. We need those horizons because we have in some cases to share with our materials partners, with our suppliers. We need to share longer periods of time with a good accuracy of what are the requirements of materials. We need also to be mindful to share with our logistics partners what is going to be the transportation requirements, warehouse utilizations. So we need to provide that longer term. And now is that the way that the integration works between Kinaxis Maestro and in this case PlanetTogether is we have now a much more realistic long-term planning that can become executable in the shorter term without manipulation, actually leveraging on the optimization capabilities that we have there.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, you mentioned that the fact that our platforms are integrated, which is obviously a big thing that you were looking for during this entire process of review. Why was that a significant factor for you? I mean, because you can do small integrations, data dumps here and pick up there.
So as we said, the surgence of this cloud-based platform is a game changer. In the past, we have a heavy burden on the company IT resources to try to integrate one-to-one external manufacturing partners, systems, customer data. Now this work has simplified, and this is one of the key aspects of our partnership with Kinaxis and rolling out Kinaxis Maestro and solution extension like PlanetTogether or others, is that there's a standard integration model, taking that burden out of our IT teams and really must be mindful then getting the data from our system of record. What is the data that we need? What data is new that we're missing? Where do we store it? So the focus shifts from that integration effort into getting the data ready to enable the process.
Yeah. Now, when you were getting the data ready for that process, when you were leveraging these two solutions, did it help you figure out how to more holistically round out the master data in particular, or clarify that process of creating that?
We are still in that process. No, so we have already our first division, the pet nutrition division, that has a particular our model. And yes, I mean, we again in discovering the capabilities of the detailed scheduling tool, we saw that we had the chance now to start to create in the longer term campaigning, planning, and start to how do we want to reflect the constraints in the case of the pet food, constraints between diets and all of those things did not exist in the systems before. No, now we can create that capability, which is very, very exciting to make the lives of the planner and the experience much better.
Well, let's talk about the future, right? So you've gone through the fire of getting all of this kind of phase one put together. What does the future hold for Colgate? What are you looking to do in the next wave of transformation?
No, so we have built again in the past 3 years a foundation. First with our pet nutrition division, now with the first of the Colgate regions. That now the approach is to roll out that platform to really built upon that foundation, start to open the rest of the regions, and that's a tremendous opportunity for us to harmonize the process. So we come from an architecture that we have five regions, 5 different planning instances, even before we have 5 ERP instances. So you can see the complexity. And this is an opportunity that we have to harmonize our process, obviously leveraging on the platform that we're creating. Of course, again, change management is as we continue through the rest of the regions, is we need to account for the nuances of the regions. Of course, there are parts that we need to start from scratch with different portfolios, different customers. We need to account for the different networks, and of course the data sets, of course. But the foundation is there, and an approach moving forward is going to leverage on that and roll out the platform.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned was change management. This is probably one of the biggest overlooked pieces, right, that we typically run into when we're working and engaging with our customers. So if you could you explain how you did change management? Because that's almost as important as any technology that's put in place, right? Because that's a people change,
yes.
Behavioral changes. So.
Yes, it's a key pillar of the transformation. Again, we had the company put together a journey, a change management journey and change management principles that we are very proud that we are bringing to life in this project in the supply chain. So really start to understand why we need to do the change, what is going to be the benefit as a professional, as a company, what is the change about? Share that vision. So the vision is to transform the planning operating model across process, people, organization, technology. Share that vision with the team and understand the vision. If you start from those pieces, it's easier for the team to start, okay, I see the benefits, get them excited, get them engaged into learning and to that learning mindset, that winning mindset, and get them involved in the design. No? And that's been very good blueprinting sessions with our consulting partners going to the show floor, face-to-face conversations. So make it really live for the team. No? That's been part of the experience. And at the end, as we said, is we're designing a system, we're designing a solution for the planners, making sure that it turns into a seamless experience for them. No?
You know, earlier you mentioned how you need to address the question, what's in it for me? Right? And I think that this is an important factor when you're thinking about people all the way down to the very bottom of the organization that are, boots on the ground. Sometimes messaging from kind of the people at the top that are casting the vision can come across like, you all have not been doing a good job. We have to now make a change because what you've been doing is wrong. So how did you prevent going down that path and cast a clear vision that wasn't maybe sort of a negative spin on things, but you were able to communicate that in a way that affirmed what they did, but also recognized you're facing new challenges that need new solutions.
Exactly. So if you remember the first slide is to put that in front of the team. So we are delivering a business. We are growing in pet nutrition division, for example, after the pandemic has been one of the businesses that benefit from that situation. So we see years of double-digit growth, and so the teams are doing extra effort to deliver that. The company has invested in additional capacity. So how do we continue to deliver those excellent business results, but with less effort, less muscle, and more value focus, more value added? So the vision is people become from planners into value added managers. No?
Yeah. Now, as kind of come to a close here, do you mind just sharing some perspective on somebody who's gone through the process? You're not totally out of the woods. You've got a lot more plants that you're going to be rolling out in the future. But as somebody who's gone through this with now, I believe, eight different locations, what advice would you give to the audience that's maybe looking at stepping into the front end of this journey?
I think one big win has been to confirm the power of creating a template in the solution. So we started, as we said, with our pet nutrition division. We have two distinct businesses: wet product, dry product, and along with our implementation partners, we created that template. And it took us 1 year to do the first 3 plants, both from the Kinaxis Maestro as well as from the PlanetTogether side. And once we have that template, and again, with that mindset that this is opportunity to harmonize, to leverage on that template, we just a couple of weeks ago went from 3 to 8 plants in half of the time. And that's the power of sticking to your template and drive that harmonization.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic. You know, one of the things that we'll do in just a moment is open it up for Q&A. And certainly love for you all to be able to ask questions of Herman about what that process looks like, and we'll kind of dive into that a little bit. But, you know, Herman, I really appreciate you kind of walking through this journey and talking about that, because I think this is oftentimes one of those things that we don't necessarily talk about the challenges as much as we should, and just about the realistic nature of what it takes to completely change an organization the size and the scale as Colgate, because you all have been around for hundreds of years, as we talked about earlier this morning. So this was fantastic. So what we'll do is we'll kind of open it up. I appreciate that. We'll open it up for a little bit of Q&A. So if you have a question, feel free to just raise your hand. We'll call on you, and then I'll restate the question because we do have a recording in the back, and then we'll answer after that. So, yes, sir.
So, yes, good. Thank you for the question. So, one of the let's say now advantages that we've been driving a lot of harmonization in the supply chain, even from our operations perspective, even from the late 90s. So we have a very standard design on our operations. And if you go from manufacturing location to another, you will going to have a lot of standardization, and this is the process. Actually, even the same equipment. What you're going to see is a scale. So more extruders, more packaging lines, less packaging lines. So that helps a lot, and this is where the strategies start to pay off when you try to digitize, to create a digital twin of that. So the effort was in the beginning to understand what is a wet product flow. So it's extruder, it's packaging, the cans, etc. So mapping it completely, more or less beans, more or less. So that once that is mapped, then you can start to play with the volume. So more packaging lines, less packaging lines. And the first one is always, starting from scratch is always the tough one, and refining that and going through to the test, do the testing and validate and get the feedback from the planners, fine tune it. Once we have that and we went live with the first plants, I think we were able to explode that template. No? But it took us to really, again, be at the shop floor, understand the operations, and spend those blueprinting sessions were very, very engaging with the shop floor teams.
Yeah, and just so the audience has a clear understanding, out of the 8 plants that you've gone live with, how many of them have very similar methodologies in terms of the planning and scheduling?
So-
All the same or different?
So, for example, out of the 8, we have 4 plants in US, which basically is the same footprint, the same processes. On the dry side, and in the wet side is the same. No, we had one actually very new plant that was built with the same capability, let's say.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How do you do the orchestration between your scheduling tool and all of your other downstream dependent processes? Like you mentioned, getting your packaging. I'm assuming you have to have special 3PLs that you're ordering or working with to have those arrive at the right time, your manufacturing execution systems. How do you do that?
So the integration model that we have is once you have your detailed scheduling done in your the fixed period, that could be 1, 2 weeks, depending, and that's dependent on really the capability of each plant. And
Right.
those pieces go back into the ERP, into the operating system, and that's the visibility that our show floor sees for execution. But that also comes back to the Kinaxis Maestro supply planning, and that fits obviously the rest of the end-to-end planning, which is the visibility of inventory, projection of inventory, visibility of inventories. We have in some of the cases line-to-truck operations, so that is going to drive where we are going live next week with the DRP, the example that the Merck showed today. We are going live next week with that, so that is going to fit our deployment and obviously the truckload build. So it is an ecosystem, it's interconnected, but the heart and soul remains the ERP. This is where all the data coming back from the planning, and then it's distributed where it's needed. No?
Very good. Yes, sir.
So with the integration between Kinaxis and PlanetTogether, are you still able to utilize the scenario planning capabilities of Kinaxis for the detailed scheduling purposes?
Yes, we can do both. So if we need to do in a longer period of time, so there's a synchronization between the longer period of time visibility that we use Maestro to do that, but also within the detailed scheduling, we have the scenario planning capability.
Right.
And this is more, let's say, more executional, no? In a period of time that, again, we use the optimization capabilities of the tool and see scenarios and what is the best outcome. Most important is, again, all of the ecosystem is around customer-centric, so and following Kinaxis Maestro same strategy is making sure that we are going to be on time to satisfy our customer demands. No?
Very good. Yes, sir.
Looking back, what is one thing that you wish you would have maybe paid more attention to on the data side prior to implementing? Like a data quality standpoint.
I think one important thing that again it's one of the learnings, and I would recommend to all the teams and companies starting is start with the value stream mapping. So understand how it's being done, how today is being done, even manually, how it's being done, why, what is the purpose of today's spreadsheet, or what is the purpose of today's email, or whatever it is. That's very important because we need to confirm in reality that the technology or the solution that we are applying is going to really take out that manual intervention or is really going to enhance the process. So definitely the time investment that we can do in first value stream mapping or do the maturity assessment, understand the process, and then really confirm, yes, the tool is going to address, but it needs this data. Rather than just jumping in immediately into pushing the solution, it's likely that you're going to have to retrofit because you don't have the data or it's not really solving for the purpose that we need. So that's a recommendation.
Yeah, it's a great question. Great question. All right.
Maybe one more question.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Yes, sir.
What is your biggest challenge today? I've heard about the change management. I've heard about the data. Then what is your biggest pain point today to take into adoption? I don't know what is the adoption rate today. I don't know to avoid the adoption rate less. What is your biggest challenge? Second is, we talked about moving from 3 sites
So thank you for the questions. The first one, I think, we have unique use cases that is not available out of the box. So
Right.
we value the partnership with Kinaxis. We value the partnership with PlanetTogether, that we can continue to develop those use cases. So as we are progressing and we are going region by region, we are going to find different use cases that are going to require some development, right, and really are needed, so we can transform this campaigning planning that we're talking about. This is long-standing, which that we have longer-term, realistic, feasible plans that we can share with our partners. So that's the challenge. As we continue to progress, is what are those cases that are not out of the box, and they need solution. And again, that's what we value the partnership with Kinaxis on that. On the second one is, even though we have the template, and now we can see the power of the template, reducing the time that it's taking us to do the deployment, we still need to do that blueprinting conversation, and it's part of the change management. We still need to go to the show floor. We still need to understand the operation. Yes, it's the same template, fine. More packaging lines, less packaging lines, but at the end, it's going to be a planner behind the solution, and we need to engage that person, get them trained, get them to understand the design. So that we cannot skip in the project. So we still need to go through that ramp-up process, one side at a time. No? But the heavy lifting on creating that model, I think it's proven successful so far.
Very good. Well, I appreciate the questions. We do need to wrap up. Thank you, Herman, for
taking
the time to be able to come out. If you could give him a round of applause, appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right. And if you have any other questions, you're welcome to track Herman down. You can stop by the Fusion Zone as well. We'll be over there in case you want to come and continue the discussion. All right. Thank you very much, Shannon.
Thank you.